Hey guys, it's Olivia with Salon Calico, and today I have the pleasure of having my sister-in-law here, all the way from Mexico, and she saved me a little project, which I'm so excited about. So we are going to be highlighting her roots and adding a little dimension through the body of her hair, as well as shaping it up a little bit. We've got a little bit of, she's very playful with her hair color. She does a lot with it. So down here, I think we've got a little bit of chemical stress. So I want to make sure that we take care of this. But what we're going to be doing is my signature technique using very, very thin slices as opposed to a weave. So that way we break up the roots, get some nice brightness through the body of it, and get a little bit more playful, a little more dimension. She showed me some pictures of, what was that, Blake Lively? Yeah, Blake Lively. And so she's got this beautiful honey-colored hair. So one cool trick that we're gonna do today is when I tone her roots, we're actually going to be using a permanent dye. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to lighten and soften her natural color in between. So if I were to just use a regular toner, that wouldn't do anything to lighten her natural base color, but for today, I think that we could pull that off. So I'm gonna do a really heavy foiling through the top portion, but I'm actually gonna keep some depth through the back, so that way it can add a little bit of a backdrop, so that way it looks more dimensional and not so flat. Okay, so I have done the crown and I've done past the whirl, so everyone has that nice like cowlick whirl. You want to make sure you go like far enough past it that if it's just kind of split, you know, when you haven't washed your hair and it kind of opens there, that you're still going to have a nice amount of highlight there, so you don't see a distinct line between where the highlights start and where the natural base starts. And then once you get past the round of the head, it gets really uncomfortable to be like over the hair like this. So what you're gonna do is, here's a trick. It's also very awkward to try and be in somebody's lap, right? So you're gonna come to your side here and have your tray in front of you, and you're actually gonna turn their head towards you, because it's not uncomfortable for them to have their head turned, but it is uncomfortable for them to have you totally in their lap. And so for the hairline, I know a lot of times people will struggle to get all of the little baby hairs, but here's my thing. I don't necessarily like to highlight all of these little baby hairs, because if I get all of these light, that's gonna look like breakage. It's not breakage, this is just her natural hairline. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to go a little bit past the hairline, and I'm actually gonna do it in two to the shape of her hairline here. She doesn't have much of a widow's peak, but those first little foils, I'm actually gonna do like that. And I've cut my foils in half so that way it doesn't get bulky, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take a really fine slice, just like that. And I might even take a little bit less hair. And I'm gonna start with a really fine amount, just like that, but I'm not highlighting these little tiny pieces here. I'm gonna start with just this, making sure that I'm not overlapping, because as you can see, right here is really, really light blonde, and I don't want her to have breakage right at the front of her head. So I'm gonna go in with a half foil. Fold it over my comb so that way I get a nice base. I'm gonna lift that up, place it right at the line, and then use the hair to hold it really tight in place. See how it's tight from corner to corner? And then I'm gonna go in, and I'm making sure that my lightener is pretty thick, so that way I can put this on and it will hold it. If you can't walk away from your lightener and this is holding it just like that, that means that your lightener might be a little bit too watery. And the problem with watery lightener is that it's going to run onto this lighter piece of hair and possibly break it. So especially when you're doing a tiny little root touch-up like this, you want to make sure that you pull this away, so that way this hair doesn't get folded up into it. And we're just going to fold it once, and I'm only going to lock one side, just like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, now that I have all of the foil in, and they're all very thin slices, so that way we can break up that root. So if you look at her natural color, Her natural color is about a level 5. So the undertone of a level 5 is going to be orange. So I know that she is going to lift with a lot of warmth. But I also want to bring some depth down into her hair. So what I'm going to do in between foils is I'm going to put a low light in between. And I'm going to use a level 8, so that way it kind of breaks up this, but it doesn't add too much darkness because she wants to keep it nice and light. But I'm going to use something that has a cool base, so that way it can also simultaneously slightly lighten her natural in between. So this is when I would use a permanent to do a low light. Okay, so the formula that I'm going to be using for the low light is I'm going to be doing a level 8. And in Pravana, if you see, this has a slight blue base. The natural has a slight blue base. So it looks like this one here. So that's going to give a nice little bit of depth. But this is not only going to go on her natural level 5 and bump it, but it's also going to be hitting that more hollow level 9, 10 highlight that she's got in there. So I want the neutral, so that way it doesn't go too ashy, but I'm also going to put a little bit of the beige in there, which is a blue-violet base. So that's going to help counterbalance some of those yellowy tones and make it a little bit more of a natural blonde. I'm not worried if it's going to go too ashy, only because we're not doing it all over. We're only doing it as a little bit of a low light. And we're gonna keep her highlight on the neutral warm side. So even if the low light is a little bit ashy, that's totally fine because it's gonna be balanced by her highlights. Okay, so I altered the formula a little bit. I'm still keeping that 8N, so that way it doesn't go too ashy on me, but I realized that I had the 8P, which is a pearl, and typically pearl is the blue-violet base, but this is a new formula, so I haven't tried this one out yet, so I'm really excited to see how this combination is going to look. And I'm also going to be mixing that with 20 volume, just because the heat from her scalp, I don't want to do any higher than that. This is going to give me plenty of lift at her root. And it is going to be warm, but it's going to be kind of a balanced warm because we have that blue-violet base in there. Okay guys, so here is the final product. We did a little bit of a curtain bang, a little bit of longer, so that way if she decides that she wants to grow it, she can kind of, you know, get a feel for it without being like too committed with short bangs. And then believe it or not, through the ends, I didn't actually tone it. I just used Fanola, the purple shampoo, just because I knew her ends were really porous. They would soak up any toner that I put on. And in actuality, we didn't really need the toner because all of the pictures she was showing me were more golden blonde as opposed to an ash blonde. So yeah, we just did a little cut just to get the ends nice and healthy. And as you can see through here, we have a little bit of that low light. And then throughout the body of it, because we did the permanent as toner, this tone is a lot lighter than her natural and it's a lot warmer. Which is good because then it will go along with the warmth of the highlight. So everything blends. How do you feel? You like it?
Yeah, I love it.
Yay! Awesome. Thanks, guys.